let's explore how one could learn to love. This evening's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. What is love, and how do I do it? An individual wrote, I've grappled with expressing and accepting love, leading others to perceive me as distant, although that is not the case. So this is well written. This person here has a great command of English. I'm not being facetious. You'd be surprised the stuff I read. Despite wanting to express love, I find it challenging. So let's just go through this piecemeal. I've grappled with expressing and accepting love, leading others to perceive me as distant, though that is not the case. Okay, so we're going to start right here. My job is not to be a troll. I am not a school of piranhas come to devour you live. I'm the vegan version. As long as you are not made of hummus, you are safe with me. What you are expressing is not unique. So I've got good news and bad news. And to do that, I'm going to have to jump ahead in the text and rely upon our friend, neuroscience. This is the cross-section of the human brain. This is the front, this is the forehead, this is the back of the head. Top of the head, bottom of the head, now you're good to go. So, at the bottom of our limbic system, there is a nodule. That is called the amygdala. It functions as a seat of both anxiety and aggression. This area here that looks like a pink catcher's mitt is known as the anterior, because it's the front, anterior cingulate gyrus. This is our seat. This functions as if it was the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy and compassion and love. Centuries ago, spiritual philosophers insisted that love and fear were antithetical. Functional magnetic resonance imaging confirms this, where our blood mass either collects in our amygdala or it collects in our anterior cingulate gyrus. It collects in the fear center or the love center. Now, that doesn't mean that it's wrong to feel fear. It means that we are defined not by what we feel, but what we do with what we feel. Is feeling just a tool, or is feeling a tyrant? Now let's explore this practically in terms of spiritual practice. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, but not in the fun, tingly way. So it should come as little surprise that 90% of meditation books and 90% of meditation teachers are worthless. In fact, they're worse than worthless, they're destructive. Consider this. When we rely upon our medial prefrontal cortex to actively concentrate, our blood will congest in our fear center. When we rely on our dorsolateral prefrontal cortex to actively contemplate, our blood is going to collect in our fear center. But I've got some good news for you. If we give our poor, overworked prefrontal cortex a break, and remember that we have an entire central nervous system to choose from. Consider, if you will, the magic of mindfulness. Mindfulness is not concentration. Remember, concentration is using active concentration is relying upon our medial prefrontal cortex, this bad boy right here. However, every time we inhale, we access the sympathetic nervous system located or ensconced, if you're a fancy pants, ensconced within the thoracic or ribcage region of our spinal cord. this bad boy has evolved not to actively concentrate, not to mind blank, but to notice. Let's see, do I have a diagram here? Yes, I do. It has evolved to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. An attribute of Yang, an attribute of the Buddha's wicked cousin Devadatta, was to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel, but especially rigid and controlling. So this worldview loves active concentration, and therefore it's prone to fear. A yin quality, or quality of real or imagined Gautama, who was known as the Buddha, is to be flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. That's a lot. Let's break it down. When we traverse the path of being flexible and being laid back, well, then we're okay with perceiving vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Sadly, in this day and age, where the foxes guard the henhouse, and where people with these attributes have spent a lifetime chasing and seizing the lovers of power and authority and prestige, a twisted version of the teaching prevails. Not 100%, but the majority of the time. What is the key to being loving? Choosing vulnerability. Now, I don't know about you, you're probably much smarter than me, but as a disabled child who spent an inordinate amount of the time lying on the couch watching 1930s movies, I learned a really skewed version of what romance was. And so when I made grand romantic gestures at age 12 while preparing for my bar mitzvah, I got my heart torn out, publicly ridiculed, thrown into a blender with a button set to frappe. So I can tell you that there is plenty of risk involved in love. But there is even more risk involved in self-protection. The more vulnerable we are, the more capable we will be of accepting love. But what about expressing love? We have to return to our handy-dandy teaching aid. So, a bit of review. We already mentioned that we are wired to practice mindfulness during each inhalation. Therefore, during each inhalation, we are wired to notice. We are wired to notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We are wired to notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. We are wired to notice the external and the internal, the physical and the mental, the pleasurable and the painful, the interesting and the boring, the glorious and the grotesque. This is the face of grotesquerie right here. So, an understandable question, I'm going to stay in a row before I answer questions, is this. How do we deal with all this gurk that we perceive? And here's the answer. Meditation. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are accessing our parasympathetic nervous system. ensconced within both the lower lumbar region of our spinal cord, as well as the tippy top of the brainstem. Or I should say the tippy top of that same spinal cord that some people describe as the brainstem, this bad boy right here. This parasympathetic nervous system during each exhalation is wired for physical relaxation as well as mental release. So no. If a heart was a windshield on a car, meditation is not the squeegee which drags the water droplets off of it. Au contraire. Meditation is that which makes us not oblivious to the water on the windshield of our heart, but able to make peace with it. If during each inhalation our perception focuses, then each exhalation, at least momentarily, that which we perceived during the previous inhalation seems a trifle less controlling, a trifle less solid, a trifle less influencing, a trifle less defining. If the nudity of this archetype reminds us of vulnerability, then the translucence depicted in this painting reminds us that as we relax into our exhalation, that which we perceived during our previous inhalation could feel metaphorically as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Any English teacher will tell you that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. Therefore, we must ask, what is a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, is non-graspable to the hand. Anybody born on this planet knows that change is the only constant. With the coming and the going of the seasons, we see the impermanence of a year. With the waxing and the waning of the moon, we see the impermanence of a month. With the rising and the setting of the sun, we see the impermanence of day. Gingerly rest your fingertips upon your upper chest. Feel it swell. Feel it sink. And feel the impermanence of a breath. Ever-changing, one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp, including the exaltation of bliss or the excruciation of rejection. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to stare you in the eye over my webcam through the magic of the internet and tell you that if you just meditate hard enough, you won't feel pain. Yes, you will. Meditation is not a version of pseudo-spiritual home lobotomy. Folks, I've seen many Buddha statues, but never a Buddha statue holding both a hacksaw and an ice cream scoop, as if to infer, hey, open your head, dig out your brain, and you'll be happy. I assure you, lobotomization is not on the menu. By the way, thank you, Kevin. You rock. There is an old saw. Let me know if you've heard this. Whatever comes, we let it come. Whatever stays, we let it stay. Whatever goes, we let it go. This is a path made possible not through belief, not through willpower, but through the regular practice of mindfulness and meditation. Come, let us return to the beginning of the opening letter. I've grappled with expressing and accepting love. Ah, yes, expressing love. Let's explore that bad boy, shall we? Okay, check out these groovy kids doing the hibbity-dibbity. This gal, the color of a cumulus cloud, appears to be actively sporting a tantric union. Cure the bow chicka bow bow music from the 70s pornos. Not that any of us know what that is, because all of us clearly are as pure as the driven snow. Snow driven through Newark, that is. This gal, actively sporting a tantric union, reminds us that contrivance will always be trumped by spontaneity. Consider her partner the color of the azure sky. It appears to be passively savoring the tantric union. And as such reminding us that there are many flavors of spontaneity. And that the scattered spontaneity we might experience perhaps after our third espresso will always be trumped by the centered spontaneity. That is the effortless and automatic byproduct of regularly practicing mindfulness and meditation for as little as 5 minutes or so every 12 hours or so. In fact, the more that our choices and our utterances and our deeds flow from the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity, the more our life could feel like the real or imagined paradise, or pure land, or vati, if you prefer Sanskrit, of the real or imagined Buddha. Now, does that mean we're always going to get what we want when we want it for as long as we want it? Oh, hell no. But it means we will be able to endure the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Flow not from scattered spontaneity, but from centered spontaneity, and you will be able to express your love. Now, ask any woman who's loved a good man. Just because the man is good, just because the man is loving, does that make him a psychic? No. Just because a man is good, just because a man is loving, does that mean he knows exactly what you need, when you need it, how you need it, when you need it? No, not at all. Just because someone loves you doesn't mean, and just because someone wants to meet your needs and tries to meet your needs, doesn't mean they can meet your needs. Folks, I've got something ugly to tell you. Brace yourself. Love is easy. Compatibility, that's a challenge. There is no sustainable way to force compatibility. That's so. If you're really fortunate, at the precipice of any romantic relationship, you will express to our partner that you think they're amazing and you're excited to have a relationship with them. But if you're not compatible, that doesn't negate your love. And if you're not compatible, there's no reason not to have a fabulous friendship. Getting together at least once a week or maybe once a month, but really cherishing a friendship. In the folly and profound, thunderous ignorance of my youth, I thought that if I just loved someone enough, I could be who they wanted me to be. No, you can't. You could be an Oscar award-winning actor, but even the world's greatest thespian can only be someone they're not for short periods of time and at great personal expense. There is no sustainable way to perpetually be someone that you're not. I know, I've tried. It doesn't work. And so though you love with fearless vulnerability, and though you act on that love with centered spontaneity, it is no guarantee of compatibility. That doesn't mean you can't be friends with people. People shift and grow. Today's incompatibility might be tomorrow's compatibility, and sadly, Tragically, vice versa. Let's continue. Despite wanting to express love, I find it challenging. Recently, I've entered a relationship with an affectionate partner, but I often hold back, perhaps due to fear. Yes, that is a reasonable assessment. Please express to your partner that you love their affection and you are working towards reciprocating, but it is a huge personal growth opportunity for you, that you are keen to do it. But the difficulty you have doing it is not a reflection of your love for them or their worthiness of love, but of the stuff you are going through. And then, if you can't do it on your own, give yourself 7 days. If in 7 days you can't surmount this hurdle, then do not waste any more time trying to reinvent the wheel. Find a therapist, not a fucking coach, a real therapist with at least a master's or a PhD who knows their shit. Find someone to help you work through it. If you tell your partner that you recognize that you're having trouble giving what they deserve, and you want to do something about it so much that you're going to inconvenience yourself enough to go into therapy? Of course, don't use those words, they're kind of indelicate, but word talk is cheap. That is showing how much you love them, that you're willing to become a better person, that you might be able to be the person who can meet their needs. Now, despite the best of intentions, that's no guarantee you can. But the fact that you're trying or could try is valiant and beautiful and worthy of respect. Now, does everybody have the same degree of intelligence? No. Are there some people who would view that as weakness? Yes. But is that the person who's really compatible with you? No. If the person you're with does not respect your vulnerability, does not respect your intention, does not respect your desire to evolve to be the person that your partner deserves, if they don't value that and respect that, they might not be the one for you. Do the right thing anyway. Every time you see an area where a growth opportunity, like a field marshal in a samurai movie, exploit it ruthlessly. Let's continue. We both have our insecurities. Welcome to humanity. So how can we navigate these emotions and reach a mutual understanding? Well, it depends. We can't understand our emotions away. Emotions are not a function of our intellect. Come, let us go back to another drawing, an artist's drawing. So, behold the squishy wonder that is the 3-pound supercomputer between our ears. Our emotions down here, our intellects up here, and neither of the twain shall meet. Anybody who tries to use their prefrontal cortex to govern their emotions runs the very high probability of exhausting their prefrontal cortex, which can cause one to present with many of the symptoms classically attributed to depression, and nobody wants that. Trying to use your prefrontal cortex to govern your limbic system, which is something it was never designed to do. Yes, you could buy a ridiculously expensive crystal goblet and try to use it to pound a finishing nail. Well, you can do it for one swing. The job ain't done, but the goblet is. You got to use the right tool for the right job. What's the right tool? So, by the way, trying to use the prefrontal cortex, whoopsie, to deal with our emotions reminds me of a saying a woman from Arkansas once shared with me. Let me know if you've heard this before. Don't try to teach the pig to sing. It'll waste your time and annoy the pig. So, Our prefrontal cortex evolved to reason and to compute and to calculate pi, not to argue with our limbic system. How do we surf our emotions in the most sustainable way? By noticing them, by using our sympathetic nervous system to notice them, and by using our parasympathetic nervous system to physically relax and mentally release. Emotions don't turn off like a switch on a wall for a light fixture. They last, sometimes moments, sometimes minutes, hours. What we feel is neither an indictment nor an exoneration. It's just what we feel. Noticing what we feel is an indictment. I'm sorry, noticing what we feel is an exoneration. Relaxing, releasing into what we feel is a victory. In fact, it's the key to how do we keep from being controlled by our rage or by our terror or by our despair? Not by resisting them, but by releasing. By going with the flow of mindfulness and meditation in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation, we have the ability to weather the storms of the heart. We share intentions of marriage by maintaining love amidst conflicts. Amidst conflicts, insecurities, and fears is daunting. So let's explore that. Love is more than an emotion. Love is a deep physical need. It's a deep physical experience of someone else's pain as your pain, and someone else's pleasure as your pleasure. We have mirror neurons. The hub of those mirror neurons is our anterior cingulate gyrus, the seat of empathy. Just because you love someone doesn't mean you're going to agree with someone. Just because you disagree with someone doesn't mean you hate them. Me and my partner disagree about the most delicious way to prepare beets. I like them shredded, raw, in a salad. She likes them baked. So even though we disagree on the most delicious way to eat beets, she has yet to smother me in my sleep. You know, the day is young. Maybe tomorrow night she will, but I don't think it's going to happen. You can disagree with someone without hating them. You just can disagree with them without them being your sworn enemy. Speaking to my aunt who loves Fox News, I said, well, I disagree with such and such politician. You must hate them. Why would I hate them? I just disagree with them. You know, I disagree with most people on most things most of the time. Doesn't mean I'm, building a death ray in my fortress of solitude. That's for next week. As a newcomer to relationships, I'm uncertain about what to disclose and what to withhold. And that's where centered spontaneity comes in. Withhold too much. Well, love is like a plant. You can kill it through desiccation, but you can also kill it through drowning. That's not very helpful. But remember, the fringe benefit of a regular practice of mindfulness and meditation is centered spontaneity. The more you meditate frequently, regularly, consistently, the more you'll be able to just flow. And things will come out off of the top of your tongue. You'll surprise yourself. I remember going back about 10 years, the first time I told a person I was dating that I was pansexual. It just slipped out of conversation. There was no agenda. There was no Machiavellian plan. I didn't have a formula worked out on my chalkboard. Okay, when this happens, I'll say this. No, it just slipped out automatically. And it was a very, very positive reaction. One time I was in a toxic relationship with a malignant narcissist, and I had to get out. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what to say, when to say it, or how to say it. Because I didn't want to be cruel. I didn't want to make things worse. And so I sat in meditation. And when they walked in, the most appropriate words to get myself out of the circumstance just spontaneously came through me, as if I was less of a person and more of a conduit. That simile is a common experience. The more we train in love and the more we train in mindfulness and meditation, the more we will experience the centered spontaneity of being in the zone of going with the flow. Love confuses me, yet I am willing to learn, and that makes you a good person. I recognize the importance of detachment from physical things, but how can I love without becoming attached? So I'm going to politely and respectfully disagree with you. Buddhism is not the only discipline to be misunderstood when good-hearted people practice reductionism. Ask any teacher of philosophy, and they will tell you that reductionism will only take you so far, and then you experience the law of diminishing returns, and then it does more harm than good. So the key is not to pick and choose what we feel. No. The key is not to pick and choose the intensity of what we feel. No. The key is to notice what we feel, be it glorious or grotesque, interesting or boring, pleasurable or painful. Notice what we feel as we breathe in, and relax and release to whatever degree we can during each exhalation. The goal of this practice is not to indulge our controlling tendencies about what to feel about what. No, remember, the path of the Buddha is not about being controlling. It's about being laid back. It's not about rigidity. It's about flexibility. So the question is not what we feel, but what we do with what we feel. Consider, if you will, Anakin Skywalker. He fell in love with Padme. He's not the first Jedi to ever fall in love. But when faced with the prospect of possibly having her die, he allowed himself to be seduced by the dark side. That is a textbook example of the peril of indulging our controlling tendencies. Far better would have been to be vulnerable with his allies and say, I've got this relationship. I've been having these dreams, the same dreams I had about my mother, who I ignored, and then she died. I'm having the same dreams now about Padme, and I'm scared she's going to die. Please help me through this. If he had been super vulnerable with his closest confidants, they probably could have helped her, probably could have helped him. They didn't do that. He chose to indulge his fearful tendencies and his controlling tendencies and his rigid tendencies until slaughtering children seemed like an A-OK idea. As Mary Tyler Moore said to Dick Van Dyke, I forgot the name of the character now. Oh, Rob. So, it's not that we detach from our emotions, it's that we choose not to be controlled by them. We allow our drives to be our tools and not our tyrants. Our drives to possess and shove. These are survival impulses that can serve us well in life or death scenarios. But if we are defined by them 100% of the time, it's going to be exhausting and will undermine our ability to have a fulfilling life. We have two different reward systems under our brain. One is the dopamine-oriented, pleasure-oriented reward system, and the other is the oxytocin fulfillment-oriented reward system. The only way to have a fulfilling life is for the objects of our dopamine reward system to be tools. If there are tools in our lives, they can serve us. If they are tyrants that control us and pull our puppet strings, our life's going to be a steaming heap of monkey poo. And nobody wants that. Well, we've gone through this in broad brush strokes with my hair at Mach 2 with my hair on fire. And you've stood there with me, so I applaud you. I look forward to practicing the finer details of mindfulness and passive mindfulness meditation and contemplation with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Speaking of which, I'm going to check for questions right now. So, let's see here. So Jigton wrote, "Yay, and may the force be with you." Thank you, Jigton. Right back at you. Pixie wrote, "Wow, there is more risk in self-protection. That's deep. I'll need to work on that one." Then you've come to the right place. I'm happy to help you out. So Jay Monahan wrote, "Hello, Lama. Did what you said." Wunderbar. Das ist wunderbar. Good man. Kevin Hayes, you generous son of a gun, thank you very much. To you I send a great big hug and a psychic kiss on the cheek. Greetings and salutations. You know, one time when I was a kid in elementary school, I climbed into the carpool and said that, and everyone said, "You saw Charlotte's Web." I was trying to sound super smart and urbane, and they wouldn't let me. Let's see here. Yes, but beats though. That's a ludicrous example to show that hating someone because they disagree with you is an absurdity, is it not? So Jigton wrote, "Anakin, don't try it. I have the high ground." There is this brilliant individual on Facebook who writes a comic strip based on the antics of his daughters. And he said that the proudest moment of his life was that when, and I'm going to recall this as best I can, this is probably a confabulation. The proudest moment in his life was when he and his wife and his daughters were renting a cabin, a vacation cabin, and his eldest daughter scrambled to the top of the bunk bed and proclaimed, "It's over, Anakin! I have the top ground, the high ground." And he's all, as a geek, that was the proudest he would ever be. I love how a ridiculous sci-fi franchise has become a font of such poignant tropes. Okay, checking the time. It's 6:40. Cowabunga. So, quick like a bunny, I'm going to hit tap button 9. Let us enjoy the latest iteration of easy meditation. Let us begin by bringing the 4 bases of mindfulness, the circumstantial, the physical, the interpersonal, and the mental. Let us bring the 4 bases of mindfulness into the figurative practice of the rainbow body. Please chant with me. Rather than indulge or controlling tendencies with all follies of active visualization, emotion, magic, and belief, We could just recite these wise words in harmony with our breathing and allow our subconscious to do the heavy lifting. Let us sidestep the rigidity that confuses metaphors for literal statements, and relax into the flexibility that savors the chance explaining metaphors as similes. Here we go. All circumstances or lots could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this body or form. Notice how melt is a metaphor of impermanence and absorb is a metaphor of interdependence. Silently, mentally, passively, during our inhalation, let's recite the noun lots, and during our exhalation, let's recite another noun form. Whoops. Yes. Please chant. All bodies or forms could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this communication or speech. Notice how we are using our inherent self-centeredness as a tool to transcend our self-centeredness. All interdependent speech could be as impermanent. Sorry, let's try this again. All interpersonal speech could be as impermanent and interdependent as if it could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this mind. All minds could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into our vast empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although tantalizing to the eye, could be not graspable to the hand. Having passively contemplated, let us now bring whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and letting go. Having climbed to the contemplative cruising altitude, together as a team, let us meditate as transformatively as young Luke Skywalker on Dagobah under the guidance of Yoda. Come, let us bring the 4 bases of mindfulness into the practice of love and letting go. May all minds of all beings now be as peacefully wise as the enlightened mind of a real Lord. Imagine Buddha symbolized by a Imagine Buddha symbolized by a Jigme, one suitable seed or Bija mantra. I think I'm missing a phrase here. Buddha apostrophe S, mind. Okay, and let's hit this. Okay. Okay, so let's go back over here and hit this. Let's go back over here and drag this and see if that works better. Okay, Cowabunga. Let's try that again from the top. May all minds of all beings now be as peacefully wise as the enlightened mind of a real Lord. Imagine Buddha's mind symbolized by a Jigme. Aha! The old Department of Redundancy department, eh? May all minds of all beings now be as peacefully wise as the enlightened mind of a real Lord. Imagine Buddha symbolized by a Jigme, one suitable seed or Bija mantra. May all relationships or speech of all beings now be as joyfully loving as a real or imagined Buddhist communication symbolized by the 12-syllable mantra. May all bodies or forms of all beings now enjoy the beautiful health seen in Buddhist statuary, depicting the blissful body of a real or imagined Devi or Yidam, an archetype of enlightenment such as Kuntu Zangpo. May all circumstances or lots of all beings now have the good fortune or boon, as a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, pure land or Vanti. Let us bring whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and letting go. Let us bring the 5 aggregates into the path of awareness and letting go. There may be some minor editing here. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever body or form we might have noted. Let's try this again. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever body or form we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as not graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever sensations such as pleasure, pain, or other we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever appraisal of pleasure or pain's intensity or volume we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as not graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever impulse such as fucking, feeding, fighting, fleeing, fainting, or fawning we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever awareness of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, or imagination we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Let us bring whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and letting go. Okay, this one I'm pretty sure is going to require a trifle bit of editing. Please bear with me. Okay, here we go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever hate we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as mirror-like wisdom's clairvoyant. Uh-huh. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever craving we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as not graspable as discerning wisdom's bliss void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever confusion we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as not graspable as all-pervasive wisdom's awareness void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever jealousy we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as all-accomplishing wisdom's void intellect. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever pride we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as not graspable as the equalizing wisdom of primordial voidness. Let us rest in spontaneous awareness and letting go. Or, in other words, as during our inhalation we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this, Let us kick back and watch the antics of mind as it perceives, emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, and imagines. During our exhalation, as silently and mentally we recite the one-syllable verb ease, let us relax into mind's non-graspable nature. Let us bring the 5 dualistic perceptions into the path of non-duality's awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever let's try this again. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience of beauty or ugliness we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to melt into the non-duality of just sights. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience of discord or harmony we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to melt into the non-duality of simply sound. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever oh gosh, I kind of got turned around, I think. Yep, one moment. A little confused here. Aha, okay. Paste, and here we go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience... Boy, let me try that again. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience of pain or pleasure we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to melt into the non-duality of simply sensation. Whoops, what happened here? That's weird, isn't it? Okay, let's see if I can fix that. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience of disgusting or delicious we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to melt into the non-duality of simply taste. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience of hollow fragrant we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to melt into the non-duality of simply scent. A good-hearted person just asked a question, and I'll do my best to better manage Q&A. I think I'm going to tap button 8. Perhaps that will do the trick. I'm going to tap this bad boy over yonder. So, good old Jared wrote, I've always struggled with the notion that you have to love God more than anything, since you can't control how much you love something, especially compared to other things. Well, aptly put, Jared, aptly put. And so I would say this. It could be argued that God is love, and we are already wired for love. How do we get out of our own way? The more regularly we practice mindfulness and meditation, the more effortlessly we will live our life, experience the highest love, which is spontaneous and uncontrived. Practice as best you can, and we will become more and more defined by love. And that is the key to everything.